Oh, they're pathing around this wall. Crap, crap, crap. I think the most difficult part of They Are Billions is playing without pausing. Next to that, the final wave is the hardest part. Surviving each individual wave helps build up both the defenses for the final wave, as well as an understanding of how well troops do. So sit back and watch 10 waves, and get a feel for what sort of defenses work well. Here for wave 1, I had spike traps researched and waiting, and I sent half of my rangers, 4 of them, to guard the pass. This first wave consists of 10 runners, which are handled pretty well by the rangers, really. Just one of the walls, plus some spikes get damaged. I think I could have done this with maybe 2 rangers and 3 walls. I've done that sort of test before. The trick is knowing where to build your defense, though, and for me this time I wasn't quite sure how infected would path through areas I hadn't yet explored. Wave 2 came from the east, which meant it would hit one of 2 places. I had my soldiers nearby both of them, and as soon as the indicator showed on the mini-map, I set up along this border. Turns out the zombies pathed a bit further south than I was expecting, so a bit of micro was necessary to get all of my troops in on the action. This is about 36 runners, so having 5 soldiers made a big dent. Soldiers are about 50% more cost-effective than rangers versus runners, which are the bulk of all the waves, so it's definitely worth it to have them. Wave 3 came from the south, and they didn't hit where I thought they would, so my ballista went unused. 14 soldiers and a ton of spike traps cleaned them up no problem, and stone walls, which have 1,000 hit points, held them off no problem. Note how the infected head towards my soldiers rather than a straight path up north to my command center. The next wave came from the same direction, but the initial indicator plus some exploration of the map meant that I knew which choke point they'd come through. This is roughly the same defense as the previous wave, plus 1 ballista. This wave was about 90 runners, but some veteran soldiers helped out. I'm starting to think I should never build defenses behind ore patches, because that's a handful of important spikes I'm missing out on there. I've got to split credit here to the ballista and the soldiers. Wave 5 came from the north, and I knew they'd have to hit either this far west choke point or one on the east. Luckily my army had been nearby, so I was able to get them behind walls fairly quickly. I'm not really sure what happened with this wave. It seems small, looking at it here, and that poor lonely Lucifer didn't get to burn anyone. I have a feeling maybe a bunch died due to the spikes, or maybe the executor just did a lot better than I think. Since I had the magic eye thingy, the silent beholder that is, which reveals the whole map, I thought I'd take a second here to show you the pre-wave that happens a few days before each of the latter waves. You can see a dozen or so small groups of zombies heading out from all corners of the map. You can't ignore defenses between waves. Everything needs to stay guarded. Wave 6 came from the south again, and I had just completed the Tesla tower that you see here. I had to build the walls and spikes quick, although luckily my army was nearby. There's about 150 runners here, plus 14 fatties. 4 soldiers got promoted, fending them off. The mass of soldiers here really did it, and I gotta credit that Lucifer too, who burned through tons of the runners. This is proof that you don't need static defenses like ballista, as long as you have dozens of soldiers at every wall. Right at the end of this wave, a nearby harpy got interested. Although she got curb stomped here, keep in mind that just because the wave is done doesn't mean zombies have stopped coming, especially on maps where you haven't cleared the villages of doom. Wave 7 came from the west, and again I had my army elsewhere. The soldiers just made it back inside the base, although I've got a Lucifer and an executor here to help deal with the assault. There's 16 fatties in this wave, and I'm going to guess around 500 to 600 runners, including a heavy component of high hit point executives. I've got 2 rows of iron traps and 2 to 3 rows of stone walls. None of the walls got taken down. The Lucifer pulled a lot of weight here. They're tremendously effective. Otherwise, a bulk of soldiers, 5 snipers, and the executor chew through the incursion. Fewer troops could have handled this, although at the cost of some of the walls getting taken down. Wave 8 came from the north, but this time the wave pathed around to the east part of my base. I had 3 Lucifers in the area, 2 of which were on their way elsewhere, but I redirected them back here to handle the wave. Sadly, one of them goes down. Maybe if he had been one step further back, he might have lived? Otherwise, this is a much weaker defense than the previous wave. 4 snipers instead of 5, and just 6 soldiers. I'm not going to count the 4 rangers. But I didn't have a Thanatos, who had just been trained nearby. There were 34 fatties in this wave, and I'm not going to guess how many runners. Again, units and the Executor kept the wave from even touching the walls. I lost a lot of iron traps, but both the iron and the wood spikes you see are very effective at slowing down waves so that your units, especially area of effect attacks like the Thanatos, can kill off the zombos. Wave 9 came from the south, but now I know where they were going to path, through a tiny 2-channel choke point. Over 3,000 gold went into building wire fence traps to slow down these zombies, plus about 30 iron and 30 wood. I've got 2 Lucifers at the ready and 2 Thanatos to lob rockets at the wave. This is a bit closer to a final wave defense, with a few late game units plus about 8 standard troops. In addition to damage, the traps really slow the wave down, giving AE a chance to do some heavy damage. The Titan showing up at the end sealed the victory here. Again, no damage to the walls, but I lost over 2/3 of the wire traps. And now to the final wave, which I'll present in 4 parts. Here we've got the north side of my base, which faces less than the whole northern zombie army, since pathing means 1/3 or so of the invaders skipped this side of my base and went around to the east, which I'll show you later. I've got the biggest defense concentrated here in the middle. Just 1 Lucifer, 1 Thanatos, and an Executor, and 1 sniper there on the west. Holds off 1 stream of zombies that come out from behind some trees and are trapped in an extremely narrow choke point. For the most part, the right wall here gets ignored. The 2 Lucifers do quite a bit of work on the right half of the attack, and in the wall to the left, just one of the Lucifers seems to have kept him from some harm. Although he eventually goes down from spitter venom, and eventually the right Lucifer dies the same way. Damn spitters. There's 2 Titans, 2 Thanatos, and over a dozen mixed sniper and soldier troops here at the wall. And again, other than the fence post, none of the walls get taken down. Final wave, part 2, the west side. There's 6 streams of zombies coming in from the west side, which I have defended in 3 or 4 places. But just the 2 here are the ones that get hit. Sometimes zombies come from the very corners, sometimes they don't, and here they all wound up pathing through this one point. I kept the view zoomed out a bit to see how that pathing was going to go. You can see the southernmost stream bend to the north right before I zoom in. Note that the northernmost stream is held off by just 1 Lucifer and 1 Executor. And again, that Lucifer does extremely well, only getting taken down eventually by Venoms. There's 3 Titans in this defense, just 1 Thanatos, 2 Lucifers, may they rest in peace, and I think right out a dozen base troops, the soldiers and snipers. Together they kill off all of the attacking wave, which has been slowed down heavily by wire and spike traps. I do lose some walls, but incredibly they're interior walls that were damaged by spitter attacks. Lots of heavy firepower in this defense, perhaps some fence posts, and another dozen soldiers could have worked in place of some of those advanced units. Part 3. You've seen the south part of this map 3 times before. This time I've got 2 Lucifers on the right, 1 on the left, 1 Titan and 3 Thanatos behind the walls guarding the pass. There are 3 Executors as my static defenses. There are 4 towers full of soldiers and snipers, which to me is about normal for this sort of defense, and there's maybe 3 or 4 loose troops. Tons and tons of fence traps again. One thing this huge field of traps does that I haven't mentioned yet, it eats harpies. They're nearly dead before they get close, and then just 1 bullet finishes them off. Note that the 2 Lucifers on the left never get a chance to fire, and luckily all 3 of them live through this battle. This extensive trap yard was extremely effective and suggests to me a trick that I hope to be able to use in the future, that of forcing pathing around water and killing the attackers before they get to the wall. Water is better than forests or mountains for this, since my units can see over the water and shoot over it. And now the final part of the final wave, the east side. I've got roughly 4 defense lines here, 1 north of the bus, 1 south of it, 1 choke between the lakes, and finally the wall that you saw way back in wave 2, which I never extended my city beyond. Plus, here you can admire my magnificent Crystal Palace. Early on, the fence posts down south stall the wave, allowing Thanatos and Executors to clean them up. The Lucifer between the lakes and the one down south barely fired their flamethrowers. Both walls were almost entirely untouched. The zombies divide into 6 streams here, 2 south, 1 between the lakes, and 3 on the north side. And it looks like I've got my defenses in just the right spots. Heavy meat is at the northernmost and southernmost choke points, plus 2 Titans and 3 Executors in the middle. There's some non-optimal unit placement here, but I've got to let that go.
Our defenses are being attacked. The colony is under attack.
Once the eastern waves have been cleared, we have a lull here. There's 1 last stream of zombies left to kill off. This one came from the north and pathed far around a couple lakes to get down here.
Units under attack.
I'm also glad that none of the zombies decided to rush the wooden gate up there at the top left.
Our forces are in danger. Our buildings are being attacked. Our soldiers are in trouble.
Again, the last thing to die are the Venoms, who are dead set on killing my poor Lucifer. A rocket puts an end to them. Is that it? Nope. Damn Venoms are at it again. While you watch Lucifer versus Venom here, please click the like button and give me a subscribe. I think watching waves is fun, and I hope you enjoyed this video too. Keep an eye out for more videos, and let me know your comments.